We're going to talk about the latest update to Lonzo Ball, which it ain't looking too good. We're going to break it all down right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Basketball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise? Then this game is definitely for you. To download the game, just visit ultimatebasketballgm.com or look it up on the App Store. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Pat, the news that I think we've all were expecting, even though we didn't want to hear it, and that is Lonzo Ball is set to get his third surgery. This surgery is going to be a knee cartilage transplant, which it's been a handful of athletes, and we'll talk about what the recovery timeline is on this. But before we get into that, Pat, what are your initial thoughts after hearing that Lonzo Ball will indeed be getting another surgery?
My first thought is, first and foremost, this is bigger than basketball now. This is a moment for Lonzo Ball where you're having your third surgery on your knee. This is about being able to walk the correct way again without pain. So I wish him nothing but the best in a recovery sense. I hope that the surgery goes well. I hope that we get him back to a point where literally he's just able to move his body without having pain day in and day out. In the basketball sense, this goes back to what I've been saying about AK the entire time. Lonzo Ball was a bad signing. Not the entire time, I should say, but since the injury has happened. Lonzo Ball was a bad signing. And you've gone down this litany of things that may or may not return him to the basketball court, but at that point, what player are you getting back on the back end of that? And I think that's kind of where the Bulls sit with this whole thing right now. Hopefully, Lonzo Ball is able to return to the basketball court and play the game that he loves at some point, but it probably won't be in a Chicago Bulls jersey. I think the best that we're going to see out of Lonzo Ball's career is probably going to be the 37 games that we saw him play, 33 games we saw him play for the Chicago Bulls. And that sucks. That sucks at the end of it.
I mean, and I love that you said it's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than the Bulls. Like, don't get me wrong. Let me not say some of it. I don't want to even use that. And this isn't hyperbole. So the most exciting brand of Bulls basketball that we've seen, at least in the last 5 years, was when Lonzo Ball was on the court for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Period. And so for that to be taken away from somebody that we know loves the game and things like that, it sucks. And like you said, it's bigger than basketball. And he has to now look at something of getting to a point to where he's going to be pain-free, as close to pain-free in just regular life activities. And the reason why it's not hyperbole to say that he may have played his last game in the Chicago Bulls uniform is I looked it up. This surgery, the knee cartilage removal, what they do is they take out a circular part of the cartilage from a non-weight-bearing part of the healthy knee, and they're going to implant that in the knee that needs the cartilage transplant. Now, the thing that makes this timeline even more concerning is that there was a study done between 2015 and 2019 on 38 athletes that had this exact same surgery. Out of those, 17 were able to return to high-level sports activity. Another 25 in total were able to return to sports in some fashion, but only 17 came back to sports at a high level. And then that had a median turnaround time of 18 months. Lonzo Ball only has 2 years left on his contract. So for Lonzo Ball, who already has been a slow healer in most of the injuries that he's had with his lower body, it's realistic that even if Lonzo does return back to basketball, it's still highly unlikely that it's going to be back in the Chicago Bulls uniform.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing is here, right? Like, you're now focusing on how do you move on or how do you build without him being here, right? Like, there's a big part of this season that was going to be, hey, when Lonzo gets back, the Chicago Bulls team is going to take that step in the right direction that we hoped for. Lonzo going down, I think, essentially changes the trajectory of where this team was supposed to go. It changes probably who's going to be on this team this year, right? Like there's repercussions. Of course, for Lonzo, the most important repercussions, right? Being able to walk with comfort again and different things like that. But there are repercussions that do come to the Chicago Bulls team. And the biggest one is, right, like DeMar DeRozan probably ends up playing at least through his full contract here if Lonzo Ball is healthy enough to be on the court. Now we're talking about going into an offseason where we might trade DeMar DeRozan because you need somebody that's going to put people in a position to be successful and separate Zach LaVine and DeMar and dictate, okay, who's going to get this shot, who's going to make this play right here, who's going to put the team on their back in this moment. Without Lonzo, you don't have that. You know, Pat Bev's a nice filler piece for that. But going into next season, and we'll talk about kind of some of the free agents that might be available, right? But like Pat Bev moving forward, right? Like he's not the answer. You need an answer that fits the timeline that is a part of your team. And that doesn't seem like it's on this team already, right? Maybe that is a Dalen Terry in the long term. Maybe it is an Ayo Dosunmu in the long term. But we're not seeing those guys on the court enough to have that answer. And so I think, right, like it's not just the fact that Lonzo's going to probably not come back in a Bulls uniform, but it's also everything that is the fallout from Lonzo missing out here.
Yeah, it's a lot of fallout, and it's a lot of things that implications that has. And next up in the next segment, we're going to talk about like some of the targets that the Bulls can go after to fill that point guard, and kind of what scenarios that the Bulls have at their disposal to kind of, you know, go into the next steps. But here's the question that I want to ask you, Pat. Let's say Lonzo, let's say he is out another year. Let's say he is by some luck is able to return in the last year of his contract. What do you think Lonzo would have to show to where it can make it feasible or sensible for the Chicago Bulls to consider re-signing him?
The only way that you re-sign Lonzo Ball is if Lonzo is willing to take a veteran minimum. If Lonzo Ball is not willing to take a veteran minimum, we're not even having this conversation. If I'm the GM, because to me, you have your answer. To me, you understand that there's always going to be this level of concern around his knee. And we're talking about, it's not just him having knee surgery, right? Like Derrick Rose had multiple knee surgeries. Mm-hmm. They weren't all on the same knee.
That's true.
Lonzo's having this again on the exact same knee.
Yeah, that's fourth surgery overall on the same knee, right? Third since a Bull, but fourth overall since his career.
That's where my biggest concern comes in. Like this is telling you that the knee's not stable. The knee doesn't have an ability to go out there and play a NBA season. And some people's bodies just give out for them like that. It sucks that it seems to be the theme of Bulls point guards over the years, but some people's bodies just give out on them like that. And so I think, right, like when I'm looking at this, there isn't a scenario where I'm re-signing Lonzo Ball unless it's like, hey, brother, we got $800,000 for you. Because to me, there's nothing you can count on with him now. You can't, and it's not by any right like reason of his own or anything. His body's just not holding up. But I can't count on him going out there and being able to be a major part of a team, right? Like maybe if he wants to be a bench piece moving forward, right? Like we can have a conversation like that coming off of the bench. But realistically, I can't see Lonzo Ball in the starting lineup ever again in my mind.
That's tough, bro. I mean, and I can't argue with you there. I would love to be able to sit here and put together a realistic argument that would make sense to start Lonzo Ball, to wait on Lonzo Ball for anything. But at this point, you just can't. Like literally, you can't. This team needs so much done to it, so much work, so much just improvement overall, so that we can get back to being a playoff team next season and being above 500. That, you know, the Bulls have to seriously look at themselves and ask them questions on what do they need to do? What route do they need to go? What is at their disposal that they could possibly use to not solve the issue, but to help start correcting the ship that are here with the Chicago Bulls? And you said it earlier, right? This made that, like, Lonzo Ball being healthy here could have very well been DeMar DeRozan seeing the rest of his contract out. It could have been re-signing Nikola Vucevic could have very well gotten an extension by now if Lonzo Ball was out there and this Bulls team was rocking and rolling like they started last season off with. It completely changes and rewrites what the history of the Chicago Bulls could have been. And it's always going to be looked at as this what if, right? We've had a lot of what ifs as Bulls fans. Derrick Rose, what if he never would have got hurt and actually had a prime? Now, Lauri Markkanen, what if Lauri? What if Bobby Portis? And we have to add to that now a 25-year-old point guard that at least when he was on the court was everything we wanted and needed him to be.
Yep. No, 100%, man. So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I hope that he gets better. Hope that he feels better. Hope that the knee does recover. I hope that he's able to continue to have an NBA career. Yeah. I don't expect it to be in the Chicago Bulls jersey.
And there you go. Next up, we're going to talk about some of those possible routes that the Bulls could go to possibly replace or recoup some money in regards to Lonzo Ball. But before we talk about that, I want to talk to you about our next partner. I'm really geeked out about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. You ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring, trading players, and training them, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of the season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free and playable offline, play on the go, or as you want and when you want to. Pat right here has won 4 titles in Ultimate Pro Basketball. 4 titles. 4 titles. So it's a fun game. It's very addictive. If you guys like role-playing games, it falls very much in line with that. Locked On Bulls listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo Locked On, all caps, in the game store. So make sure you check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up in your app store of choice. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM, start your dynasty today. All right, Pat, you know me. You know I'm a nerd. You know I read the CBA. So we can talk about some of the things that the Bulls could do in regards to Lonzo Ball and his contract. So the first thing that the Bulls could do is look into the disabled player exception. So what this does is this gives the Bulls back 50% of Lonzo Ball's contract, which would equal $20.1 million. And they can use that then to sign a free agent. The thing with this, though, is it keeps Lonzo Ball's contract on the salary cap overall. So even though we would get $10.1 million back that we can use to either trade for a player in the last year of their deal or sign a free agent, it would then put us over the luxury tax. And we know Jerry Reinsdorf is probably not going to pay the luxury tax. The other option for the Chicago Bulls is called the career-ending injury exception. And what this would do is that the Bulls would then file this with the NBA. The NBA would have a independent doctor look over Lonzo Ball in the situation that's going on with him. If that doctor determines that more likely than not, Lonzo Ball cannot return, it doesn't stop him from returning if he can make a return. But it would, if that doctor says that, yes, there's a higher probability than not, Lonzo Ball's career is over with, they would then get the total of Lonzo Ball's salary back. It would not count against the salary cap. We would still have to pay him the remaining $40 million on his contract, but that would not be against the Bulls salary cap. So that would technically mean that if they file that this offseason, the Bulls would then go into the offseason, not considering if they sign any of their own free agents, with $30 million outright in salary cap, as well as a mid-level exception. So, Pat, now that you've heard what the Bulls could do in a case like this, which route do you think is more likely knowing this franchise?
The tough part is, right, like when I look at what route is more likely knowing this franchise, it's probably going to be the route that's the most loyal. Right? It's probably going to be the route of, hey, we want you to be able to come back. We want you to be able to play for this team. We want you to be able to be a part of something special. So we're going to try and get money back off of your deal now, but also keep you on the roster, keep you on the salary cap, keep you on the payroll so that we can continue moving forward. And hopefully when you come back, you're able to play.
Now, you say that that's the most likely scenario, but keep in mind that scenario would then mean that the Bulls are into the luxury tax, which is also an unlikely scenario for this franchise.
That is true. I don't know, right? Because here's the thing: if it was just AK making the decisions, I feel like I would be a lot more sure that they would just try to write it off, right? Like, hey, Lonzo's a loss. Let's clean our hands up and let's get him out of here. And we'll try to, recoup as much money as we can. Hopefully, the doctor will side with us. Mm-hmm. But we know that the ownership is very involved in a lot of the process and the final decisions that come into play, right? We know that ownership has a big say in a lot of the decisions that come into play when it comes to this. You've been advertising on the whole show. You might as well have left them there.
I know, right? But, I just saw that and I looked up and I'm like, oh, well, free advertisement on Locked On.
I got that free ad over here, man. Shout out to whoever that was. Big gas station pop guy. Huh?
No, the Smoothie King, bro. Smoothie King. Man, I've been on my healthy kick lately. Bro, I only have one actual meal a day. Everything else is either a Built Bar or a smoothie.
Hey, man, big shout out to the ads out here. But no, I just, to me, I look at where the Chicago Bulls realistically are. Even though it goes into the luxury tax, I think that they will try to pay out Lonzo the contract.
He gets his money either way in this.
Right. But I mean, I think they'll try to keep him on the team. I do. I don't think that that's the right decision to make, but I think that's probably the decision that the Bulls will try to make. And the big thing for me is that you can go into either scenario, and at least, and we'll talk about the free agent class coming up. To me, it doesn't change this Bulls team dramatically one way or another. To me, right, like you get the $10 million back. Okay, makes us feel a little bit better about where we are cap situation wise, except we go into the luxury tax. You know what I mean? So I don't think that it changes us one way or the other. I think
$30 million in true cap space is considerable to change this team around. That's not anything that's just light. Like that's serious money to add some serious talent to the team. That's a max level free agent that you can add at that point.
But at that point, right, aren't you talking about rebuilding pretty much what you're trying to do? Right? Like at that point, we're talking about possibly moving on from DeMar, possibly Vooch not being here, moving on from these. Like you're talking about going into a rebuild that still has that.
No, not necessarily, because keep in mind that $30 million includes an exception. It includes $20 million in cap space, but then that's not including trading DeMar. So theoretically, you could trade DeMar, re-sign a Kobe or Ayo, or keep Alex Caruso, re-sign Kobe or Ayo, even possibly bring Vooch back and still have money to still acquire play. So it's not necessarily going into a full rebuild. It's allowing you a chance to reconstruct, not necessarily rebuild.
A retool over a rebuild. What do you feel is the best option the Bulls should take here?
I mean, removing the human element of it, just pure business.
Yeah.
I think at this point, considering that we're talking about 18 months typically for high-level athletes to return, that's the whole you're paying him not to play either way.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, it's highly unlikely that you re-sign him because is he going to have enough to show you? So to me, the best decision is to try to file for the career-ending injury exception. I think that's the best route to go. We know that we need some serious work on this team. The roster that AK built does not work. It doesn't work with Billy Donovan, or it just doesn't work overall. Either way, Billy ain't going nowhere. So I think that you have to, and it sucks. If unless a doctor comes and says no, he will be 100% ready to go in 12 months, you have to try to you have to go for it, because if you could guarantee me Lonzo Ball is going to come back, then I'm riding with Lonzo because I know what he is. I know what he's going to bring to this team. But at the end of the day, it's like we got a team to improve here, and you have to use everything to your ability to try to improve your team.
I think the question is, right, like, is there an opportunity for him to do both, right? Like go into this offseason and say, hey, we're going to try and get this exception, this $10 million, and hopefully he comes back. And then maybe you go with the disabled player or the what is it? What'd you say it was? The retired player exception?
No, the career-ending
exception. It's too many names of these exceptions.
I don't think you can do it if he only has 1 year left on his contract. I have to read that. I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong on that. And the thing is that also I just don't see even if you do the the disabled player exception, I don't see any world in which Jerry Reinsdorf signs off on us going into the luxury tax.
Yeah, well, hopefully. That was about to be a really bad joke. All right, let's do a Built Bar read here. Hey, man, we appreciate you guys for listening to us, man. And with March Madness here, the Built March Madness bracket is here as well. We know you have a favorite bar, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com and vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the Churro Puffs. It's my favorite one out of all of them. And if you want the I don't know who I'm gonna be honest with you, no clues in the tournament. If you want Arizona to win, they got beat already. I do know that Arizona got beat.
You didn't
already
go with Illinois? You didn't go with Illinois?
Illinois got beat too. What do you mean?
Did they?
Yes,
oh wow,
I did watch that. They got cooked. If you want, insert your favorite team here to win, then you'll be voting for the bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entering and drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will receive a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bar and puff delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built at Built, the best practice protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing. You won't think that they are good for you. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. Now, we also got to tell you guys about FanDuel. Here's the thing. We're coming up to the end of this NBA season, but it's still the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's a bonus bet back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, easy to use, and you can bet on everything from the money line to points scored, threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked on. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You know what's something that's extremely weird, by the way?
What's up?
I don't like that True TV is airing NCAA games. That's the show that they just show court stuff. Like you're showing basketball games on True TV.
They owned by TNT.
I know, I understand that, but it's like
it is weird though. It's just
it's a bit strange.
Guilty. And over now to the NCAA. Here's Bobby Marks for 3.
You know what? They need to have Judge Judy sing the national.
Judge Mathis is doing the national anthem on True TV, bro.
Crackhead.
I can smell it. I can smell the crack on you right now. Little rock in your past. Yeah, America.
I needed that laugh with all the injury stuff that we're talking about. So before we go, we want to talk about some of the free agent targets in this upcoming free agency that the Bulls could go after. Now, if they do end up going the career-ending player injury exception, whatever it is. My brain is fried, bro. No, between all the Bears signings and videos I've been doing and this, like it's been deep. But with that, also, if they do file that and have true cap space, they can always absorb a player into their cap space in the trade as well. But we're going to focus on free agents here. Who are some of the free agents in the upcoming class you would like the Bulls to take a look at?
In the upcoming class, it's very slim pickings at this point. But I thought one guy that was interesting to me was Dennis Schroeder over on the Lakers. Still 30 years old, right? Not a old player by any means of it. Had his best career with Billy Donovan. Understands the system. He was somebody that was being talked about. Is coming to the Bulls, I believe, last offseason possibly as a signing. I would look at him and say, hey, you know, could he possibly be an option for the Chicago Bulls? I mean, there's not a ton of answers here at the point guard position, right? Goran Dragic is going to be a free agent again. Patrick Beverley is going to be a free agent again. I think your two best options here, I mean, like, right, of course, the big name one is what? Kyrie Irving, right? Kyrie's the free agent that's going to be your big name guy. But I think your two most realistic and best options here are going to probably be Pat Bev and or Dennis Schroeder out of everybody on the list.
Well, I think if the Bulls are following an exception, I think Pat Bev is coming back regardless. But then you also make an addition. Fred VanVleet's out there. You got D'Angelo Russell, not Russell Westbrook. Kyrie Irving, well, Russell Westbrook is out there as well. And then you have restricted free agents like Trey Jones is out there as a restricted free agent, a possibility out there as well.
Yeah.
So there are some, not necessarily people that I want to hitch this long term, like you're our point guard of the future, but at least some stopgaps that you could go after for a year or two at least.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like this year, to me, the signings at the point guard position will probably be guys to get you to next season. I think your next year's point guard list fits probably what the Chicago Bulls are looking for a little bit more. Weirdly enough, right? Like if we want to make this distinction, especially with Michael Jordan trying to sell the team, LaMelo Ball will be a restricted free agent. If we want to go down the Ball road again, is that a don't worry about that.
Whoa,
is that I don't know.
That may be a bit that may be a little bit of one, bro. Just a little bit.
Maybe. Right. I don't know. Halliburton's going to be on that list, although I think he probably sticks with the team.
They're not.
Emmanuel Quickly.
DeJounte Murray's out there in 2 years. Do we do a stopgap to go after DeJounte Murray, who is Zach LaVine's boy?
DeJounte Murray's an interesting one in 2 years because of that reason, right? Also would be freed up at the same time as Derrick Rose. Hello, I'm just saying, wrap it up. I'm not saying you bring him in as the main guy, right? But a guy off the bench. No guy off the bench.
We have a guy who has no. He looks like a creative player. His name's Alex Caruso. We're good. We got our guy.
All right. You know what I mean? Like that's all I got. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But no, I don't know. I feel like like you said, you're trying to get a stopgap guy to get you to 2024, where there's more names there. But also, right, like I think the biggest issue is what the heck is I forgot his name. What is Dalen Terry's role on this team, right? Like I thought he was supposed to come in and be a facilitator. What is right?
True,
like
I don't think his long-term position is point guard. Now I could be wrong in that. I don't think
maybe I don't know, right? Like, but here's the thing: I don't know what his position is if we can't see him play. I at this point, with where you are point guard wise and how we call him literally passive P, I would try Patrick Williams at the point guard position. You have to exhaust all avenues now, because you're probably not going to have an impactful point guard for the next couple of years. Unless you go out and draft him. And for you to go out and draft him, you got to get somebody high in the draft. Oh, by the way, our pick's top 4 protected.
Yeah, it's not looking like.
I'll ask you this. Is there a trade that you think the Bulls could make for DeMar that brings back an impactful point guard?
I would only say no, because I think most teams that are going to be interested in trading for DeMar are probably going to be contending or playoff teams, and I don't think they're
going to get rid of their impactful point
guard.
Yeah,
they're going to try to be maybe unloading some draft picks that are going to be low anyway, especially with the acquisition of DeMar. Of course, they have to match salaries, but unless it's a team that has a young point guard that isn't playing, I don't know, bro. I'd have to really sit back and look at potential in that case, but nah, I don't see it.
Could we steal one of the 7 guards that may or may not be healthy from the Orlando Magic? Are we done trading with the Magic?
Listen, as long as we don't have to give up any picks to take them, for them to take him, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. RJ Hampton's going to be a restricted free agent in a couple of years. Are they willing to move off him?
Nah, there's so many guards on this team. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. MCW's down there. I didn't know Michael Carter Williams.
He literally just signed with him like in the last month or something like that. So.
It's like MCW, Admiral Schofield, bro. Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. Yeah, like it's just so many points. Markelle Fultz, right? Like there's somebody down there that we should be able to get out of them, right? Like I don't know, man. I think here's the tough part about it all. To me, your only answer here is you need to draft a point guard, a real point guard, and you don't have the capital to do it.
Yeah, so it's signing. It is signing or trading. It is. So
that's the part that sucks the most, man. It's like I said, the Bulls are in a position right now where I don't think that any team should ever tank. But you're in the middle of the middle because you've gotten rid of your future. And basically you have nothing in the present.
What do you mean by they gave up the future?
You don't have, well, at least going into next season, right? Like if you wanted this regime of Bulls to work, you don't have a future with this regime. Your future is based on, at this point, luck. You're either going to make the playoffs or you're going to be top 4 in the lottery. And I don't see either of those as realistic options. Strong options, I should say, for the playoffs, but realistic options moving forward. Now, after this year, you got a little more room to play with, but also there's a point guard market.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, listen, you never know who's going to become available. You never know who's going to become disgruntled. You never know what AK could work out, especially if they do end up doing the career-ending injury exception, and then they get that full contract back. You just never know what opportunity is going to present itself, but you give yourself a chance to sit at the table. Right now, we don't have a chance to sit at the table with the draft. I guess we have, albeit a small one, but it doesn't look likely. So I have to really wait and see what they decide to do, and hopefully they make that decision early in the summer. He's going to have, I don't know if they've set the date for the surgery, but they know. Now you have everything at the table. It's not like the doctor's going to come after the surgery and be like, oh, what turns out it's actually only going to be 4 months. It's not going to happen. He's going to miss basically all of next season. You got to make your decision early in this offseason, because if you file for that exception early enough and you get it, and you have now that exception in the first wave of free agency, things could open up. Hell, even if you have that option by the draft, right? If you do that, you could. There are teams that look to unload players just so they can make. For example, the Orlando Magic. We never know. They could try to unload one of those point guards outright to make room for whoever they're going to be drafted with our pick. But
yeah.
So.
Or try to get our pick back. I guess we could do that as well. Let us know how you guys feel, man. Let us know what you think the likely outcome is, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for showing love.
And you can follow me at CEO Haize, at CEO Haize. And thank you so much for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go and check out Game to Game NBA. Every latest performance, every big game from across the NBA with local analysis only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls. We out this mug, unfortunately, but we walking out with both good knees. Peace, y'all.
Jesus Christ. What? Relax.